It's not at all common for a film noir to have the huge cast we see in I Love Trouble. A tremendous number of bit players get speaking roles, and they all make an impression, thanks to good casting. Maybe that's because the director, S. Sylvan Simon, got his start in the business directing screen tests for Warner Brothers. He could recognize performers who spark on screen in just a few quick seconds. Now, at the top, I mentioned that I Love Trouble feels more like a screwball comedy than a film noir, and Sylvan Simon is part of the reason. He'd worked with the Marx Brothers early in his career, and his biggest success as a director came with several Red Skelton comedies, including Whistling in the Dark and The Fuller Brush Man. Simon also made films with Margaret O'Brien, Abbott and Costello, and Lassie, leading him to declare, "I'm an expert with kids, comics, and canines." The only other time he came close to making a noir was the 1949 Western Lust for Gold with Ida Lupino and Glenn Ford, which turned out to be his last film as a director. In 1950, he started working exclusively as a producer, scoring big with two William Holden films, Father is a Bachelor and Born Yesterday. Simon was the rare industry figure who was universally liked and respected, which made Hollywood a glum place on May 17, 1951, when Simon died of a heart attack at only 41 years of age. When he co-produced I Love Trouble, Franchot Tone thought he might be setting himself up for a new phase in his career, like Dick Powell had done with Murder, My Sweet. In truth, his days as a leading man were almost over. In the 1950s, he worked almost exclusively in television. It didn't help that he was part of a scandalous love triangle when his fiancée, Barbara Payton, carried on an affair with actor Tom Neal. Neal beat up his romantic rival, fracturing his jaw and doing even worse damage to all their careers. The affair continued even after Tone and Payton married, and Tone hired a real private eye to catch them in the act so he'd have evidence for divorce on the grounds of adultery. In the 1960s, slowed by lung cancer, Tone's acting roles were few and far between. But Roy Huggins, the writer of I Love Trouble, remained loyal, casting Tone in several TV series he produced, like The Virginian and Run for Your Life. Warren Beatty and Arthur Penn gave the actor one of his last movie roles in their cryptic 1965 neo-noir, Mickey 1. When he was dying of cancer in 1968, his care and all his bills were paid for by his first wife, Joan Crawford. Lastly, out of an array of supporting players, I'll single out Glenda Farrell, since it's one of the few times she'll appear in Noir Alley. Farrell had her heyday in pre-code films as one of the great brassy young dames of the era. She was in two early crime classics, Little Caesar and I Was a Fugitive from a Chain Gang, as well as co-starring in 7 pictures with her saucy twin, Joan Blondell. In the late 30s, Farrell starred in a popular series of Warner's B-movies as feisty female reporter Torchy Blaine, reputedly the inspiration for Lois Lane. Why not go over to the Noir Alley Facebook page or Twitter feed and debate which plot is more incomprehensible, this movie or The Big Sleep? Then join me next week for a movie where all the guilt and mystery are in the memory of the main character. Edward G. Robinson stars with Judith Anderson in the 1947 horror noir hybrid, The Red House. It also features a bunch of young stars in their first significant roles. It's a good one. See you back here for it next week.